Welcome back to Season 2 of Comic Watchers. Comic Watchers is brought to you by Comic Watch. Comic Watch is your source for all your comics and media news and reviews written by fans for fans. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Spread the word that we're coming for the clickbait sites. It's our time now. I'm your slightly under the weather host, Cody, and I'm joined by the usual band of miscreants, Brian, Dirk, and
Hello.
JJ.
JJ waves hello. He doesn't want to go on mute.
And we're joined by a very special guest this week, Comic Watcher's very own Matt Meyer from Oklahoma. Give it up for Matt.
Hello!
All right, so I have some grilling questions. Welcome to the cast, for one.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. He's our special guest who is actually going to appear on the award show, but our system wasn't working as well as we wanted it to. So now I get to grill him, which kind of makes me happy, as I've grilled all the rest of the cast. So tell us your origin story. How did you get into comics?
Ooh, my origin story. Probably pretty typical of a lot of kids. I was just kind of the weird little outsider kid, and comics found their way in. Tale is, boring as time. I started reading comics seriously like in '91 with X-Men #1, woot woot, and it just grew from there.
Okay.
And over 28 years later, here I am, 42 long boxes strong, and writing reviews for Comic Watch and loving every minute of it.
Nice. All right. So the second question is, why do you continue to like comics?
Ooh, that's a good question. For me, they are an underappreciated art form. They bridge the gap between the written word and, line art or paint, any kind of art. And I love that they're an underappreciated, scrappy underdog of a medium. So I love the characters. I love the style. I once fancied myself as a future comic book writer, and I think, like many of us, it just didn't quite pan out. But you never know what might happen.
Who knows? Who knows? All right, so the big question that everybody loves to hate, DC or Marvel?
Ooh. Okay, I'm going to have to hedge a little bit on that one. So lifelong Marvel, but I have to say as I've gotten older, especially in the Rebirth era, I've definitely skewed towards DC.
It's funny. That's actually my somewhat origin story of DC. Since Rebirth, I've actually gotten more books from DC than Marvel. I was always Marvel.
Easily.
Yeah.
It's for the first time ever.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead.
No, for the last question I have is, what is your all-time favorite series and or arc?
Preacher, bar none.
Oh, okay.
Garth Ennis, Steve Dillon, represent.
My man.
That came out about the time. Yeah, boy. That came out about the time that I was getting a little wary of superheroes and questioning my own faith. And here came this comic that just spoke to me perfectly. Right place, right time. Although Transmetropolitan's a close second.
In case anybody was wondering how Matt got a job with Comic Watch, I think that answer is pretty well cleared up now. If you say Preacher and Transmet are your favorite two series, I'm probably going to hire you.
I think if Cody asks and you say yes, he's going to hire you.
Also not wrong.
We have a pretty stacked group of writers, so you're doing something right.
All right, so Cody's hacking up a lung over there. I'm going to just break into news. So New Mutants, once again, rumors are swirling that there's a lot of drama, a lot of reshoots that may be happening. Who actually yes. Who knows? It's been pushed back to October. They're actually talking a straight to Hulu release instead of theaters. At this point, let it just happen. Let's just have the movie. I don't care. Let's just let Marvel have it over again and start over. Our movie from the awards show this year was Black Panther. It is also now part of the Oscars as Best Picture of the Year. I hope it gets it. I don't know. I haven't actually seen any of the other movies, so Black Panther gets my vote. DC cancels 3 ongoing series. One of them was one of my favorites. Damn you, DC. They got rid of Titans, Scooby Apocalypse, and Damage. I was actually really most probably disappointed about Scooby. I actually haven't read it, but it was one of those books that I'd always see at the comic book store or my local comic book store. And I was always like, yes, let's, I want to get that one day. And I just never did. So now it's canceled. I'm part of the problem. It happens. Also, other news as far as the Comic Watchers show, we are officially now on SoundCloud and Spotify. We are just waiting a couple more days for iTunes. I guess it can take up to 14 weeks before we are approved. So you no longer have to see our pretty little faces. You can actually just hear us as you're driving, going to work, working out, or punching a punching bag, whatever floats your boat. For more news and more headlines, please go to www.comic-watch.com. That's it for news and everything else I got.
Yeah, and also Brian has been doing a Comic Watch Daily video that kind of recaps, what we reviewed for the day, what the big headlines were. Cruise on over to our channel, subscribe, check those out. It's a really good way to kind of get a handle on what Comic Watch was up to that day. And I mean, we're always up to something.
Yeah, usually causing like a mess somewhere.
I know. Messes for me to clean up.
It's actually, yeah. It's really funny. Like I started out, like I just played with my phone for like an hour and I figured out how to do it, which is really weird because I was like, I don't know, let's play with these buttons. And a few hours later, the show was, or the, whatever you want to call it, the recap was born. So that's kind of cool.
So yeah, if we got nothing else for news, we've got 2 spotlight books for you this week. We're changing things up a little bit in our second season, kind of getting the kinks ironed out a little bit more. The first spotlight book that we want to talk about is Jessica Jones' Purple Daughter #1. Now, this is a digital-only book coming to us, written by Kelly Thompson and illustrated by, I'm going to give this one a shot, Mattia de Ulis. And, I mean, for me, this was a runaway surprise this week. I went into it with incredibly low expectations. Everyone was raving. They're like, check it out, read it. You got to read it. Like Ross Hutchinson, our press corps editor, was like, you have to read this. And I was like, no, I don't. But I did. I did. And I mean, it really blew my socks off. So I'd like to hear from you guys first. Like, what did you guys think of this new, other than the fact that it's digital only? I hate that. But
if you guys don't mind, I'll go ahead and go first on this one. I actually wrote a couple of notes. So the art was easily a 10 out of 10. Like the art for me was absolutely perfect. The exchange between her and Captain Marvel was interesting. So I hate Jessica Jones. Like I hate the show and I've never read any. Okay, I can't say I hate her because I've never read any of her books, but I hate the show like with a purple passion. Purple, get it? Okay. So seeing her differently in the book helped me like the book even more. I was shocked as hell that Kelly Thompson had wrote this. She has written other things that I'm going to be honest, I don't like. So it was so surprising when I saw that. And it was funny, Cody, when you mentioned the artist's name, I actually practiced beforehand. So I was like going to nail it this time because normally like with any type of names, I'm like, yeah, whatever. So yeah, what we have is, what I liked about the book the most is actually kind of relatable. We all have that one person that we can't seem to escape, whether that be a relationship, a relative that you just can't get rid of. And then you question yourself constantly because you don't know if this person can like make you think things that aren't true. Captain Marvel may have thrown him in the sun before, but is he back? Whose kid is it? There's so many questions that I want to answer, so I'm definitely going to be reading issue #2. Or it's 1 out of 2. This was a double issue. I think it was like 48 pages. And I do hate that it's digital. Like, I like reading my books on digital, but I hate that there's no floppies or AKA singles. It just doesn't work for me.
I guess I'll go second. I liked the book. I thought it was really good. I thought the art was pretty great. I did notice some shadows in some odd places in a couple points, especially when she was on the waterfront with, I think it was Kara. I only read it once on my break at work today, so I might forgive me if I mess up any names. But she was on the waterfront, and I noticed there were a couple spots where it seemed like shadows were coming from multiple angles, and that's a weird pet peeve of mine. When I notice it, then I can't unsee it on further panels. But otherwise, the art was really, really good. Especially Luke Cage in like moments of, you might call it grief, or you might call it, distress, whatever. He looked really good. You rarely saw his face, and I'm gonna make Arby mad and say this book is how you deal with post-traumatic stress. Tom King.
I can't even argue with that. So I've been reading so much more of King. I like King for Batman, but there's a lot of King that I don't like. But never mind, we're not going to talk about that. But
we talking about Tom Grummett? Tom Grummett, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody? All right. Well, anyway.
I got it.
Derbs, we haven't heard from Derbs
It's Tom Brevoort.
we haven't heard from you yet, Derbs. Don't you chime in.
I'm just reporting from the void. Yeah, so this comic really kind of came out of nowhere. I hate exclusive digitals. Just, I don't know, they rub me the wrong way. But I'm actually looking at the part of the art that John said he didn't like, but it's just light being refracted off the water. That's why you have shadows in weird places, because you have multiple light sources. So we're good. But yeah, I think the one thing that really gets me is when within the first, I don't know, couple pages, everybody sounds like a real human being. I feel like I'm listening to two real human beings discuss something real. And that's pretty obvious. It's pretty early. Just the writing is fantastic. And it's one of those books where I'm just like, why can't all the books be this good? The artwork is so amazing, and then I'm looking at some other book and I'm just like, it's like crayon drawings compared to this thing. And I don't know. And plus I don't even recognize the artist's name. And it's like, why aren't they doing everything? Anyway, that's my Reader's Digest take on that.
Now, Matt, I don't know if we gave you enough heads up time to have had a chance to read it, but have you read?
Yeah, actually, Brian gave me a heads up last night, so I checked it out. I really, really enjoyed it. I'll just jump in with everyone else. I thought the art was phenomenal. Good balance between actual pen and ink and a little bit of digital manipulation in the background, which I'm kind of iffy on that. It just depends on the artist. But this artist, whose name I'll not mangle, he did a great job with it. Story-wise, I really liked it. I loved the really dual cold openings, because if I remember correctly, it opens with Jessica saying, "Now that's how I became a murderer," and then it cuts to she and Luke sitting there, if I remember correctly. But Kelly Thompson did a fantastic job of distilling a parent's fear that something is wrong with your child, and it's something that we don't know what it is. We don't know how to fix it. And I kind of felt that maybe I was just too tired to pick up on this properly, but I kind of felt like they were at least insinuating that Danielle might not actually be Luke Cage's daughter, which was a pretty mind-blowing revelation as far as I'm concerned. I've been reading Luke and Jessica's relationship for 18 years now, since Alias first debuted. And one of the things, Bendis gets a lot of crap, some of it justified, some of it not. But he did a wonderful job writing and maturing that relationship. And so to see it get to this point now, where now suddenly, everything is blown up, everything is in question, it says a lot about Kelly Thompson as a writer and her confidence, because honestly, I think any writer following Bendis with Jessica Jones, I would not envy them. So that's my 2 cents. Loved the book. 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I mean, just to echo everything everybody else said, obviously the art was just gorgeous. I would like to see more art along these lines. The digital manipulation, I actually really dig when it's done really well.
Yes.
Where you can see, movement and time actually being represented in new and interesting ways. So I really appreciated that in this particular issue, or double issue, however you want to phrase it. But yeah, like to have to pick up Jessica Jones after Bendis has been writing her for 15 years. That's Robert Venditti picking up Hal Jordan after Jeff Johns. That's anybody having to pick up Superman after Dan Jurgens or Batman after Chuck Dixon. Like, these are iconic writers writing iconic characters.
Poor Tony Daniel after Grant Morrison.
Right. Like that's a rough position for any writer to be in. And I mean, and I've been an outspoken critic of Thompson's work. Like I find her Mr. and Mrs. X almost unreadable. There are other things that she has written that were okay, they were fine, but I just never was able to really get into her work. But now I see what the ceiling is. Now I see what the upside is with Kelly Thompson, and that's that she writes characters that feel real. And that's tough to do when you're talking about a super strong alcoholic that can fly, who's married to a pseudo ex-con superhero with a heart of gold who used to wear a tiara. And to make these characters feel real to us, like
that
that's
was a headband. Headband.
That's a tiara, you know it.
Tiara.
I will say that her Rogue and Gambit miniseries right before Mr. and Mrs. X was phenomenal. Like, it made me fall in love with those two again. And then I don't know what happened with Mr. and Mrs.
I didn't have the same feeling with Rogue and Gambit. I thought it was fine, but it reminded me of, I don't know where the characters have gone since I loved them in the 90s. And like just that kind of loss of identity that I feel like we've had with a lot of the X-Men over the years, the ones that don't find themselves in the spotlight all the time. If you're not, Cyclops or Emma or Jean, or weirdly Kitty is in the spotlight all the time. Like, all right, cool, do you? But yeah, like they kind of got pushed to the side as that initial burn of the 90s kind of faded off into obscurity. And I wanted to see them, running around the Savage Land or something, but instead we got couples therapy and space with Deadpool. Dope. Thanks. But yeah, no, but Jessica Jones, on the other hand, is just absolutely phenomenal. My one kind of minor criticism, and that's, along with Matt, like I've been reading this relationship for a very long time. I just don't buy that Luke, upon the fear that Danielle is not his daughter, particularly knowing that, I mean, that's if it's not his, it's likely the result of that, infamous Alias off-panel rape sequence with Kilgrave. And if that's the case, I just don't find Luke being the kind of guy that's like, I don't know if I can love this kid now. And they kind of paint him in that way, and that's just not hashtag not my Luke Cage. Like, he loves that kid.
I don't know if because I went in knowing that you were thinking that when I read it, because I only got to read it this morning, and I didn't really pick up that he wasn't gonna, like, he was gonna disavow the kid if it wasn't his kind of thing. It seemed like he was leaving to try and protect he was bringing the kid with him to try and protect the kid, but at no point did I feel like, if this isn't my kid, I'm leaving or anything like that.
No,
it seemed like he was acting like a parent, but he did have that sequence you're probably thinking of where he was talking about, I feel like I've lost a child, which
right.
Which I did see what you were saying, but I didn't necessarily get that feeling in the rest of the issue.
I mean, maybe it's just be keying in on that particular piece of context, but I mean, we'll see where it goes. I have a feeling we'll have some redemption for Luke. I have a really strong feeling that this is going to turn out to be Kilgrave's kid, but we'll see where that goes.
See, I really didn't get the vibe that, like, on my first read through. I mean, I read it very carefully. just because it demanded it. And I didn't have your opinion before I read it. And I really never got I never got the feeling that Luke wasn't going to love the child if it wasn't his. I just think it was just fucking with him. Like, that's the only thing that I really got from it. I just felt like this man's being fucked with. And Jessica's being fucked with. And whatever this is working. But I never really got this feeling that Luke was like, so fuck this, I'm out. Or even just, I just don't know because it's not mine. It's not explicit, and I just never got that feel. But again, I'm not a dad. I mean, I have nephews and things, but I can understand it. It can be a sensitive thing, and you guys probably have better insight than I do.
Yeah, I definitely can relate. I have a dog, and if somebody said that wasn't my dog, I would probably freak out. No, but all seriousness, I think it was a great book. I mean, way to go, Ross, for even recommending it, because I told him he was so full of shit when he said, I was like, I'm not going to read it. He's like,
don't give Ross the credit.
Ross is the one that made us all read it, though.
Don't tell him that.
Oh, no. Well, he watches
Brian,
the show. So
you're always giving Ross crap no matter what, Brian. I mean,
Ross.
Everything that you guys talk about at this point is just crying wolf. I don't believe shit that any of you, like, your conflict is so manufactured. There's no real relationship there anyway. It's a straw man.
Okay.
To further discredit Ross loved Black Widow #1, so loved it.
He didn't.
He loved it. He adored that book. So
and he lives in South Africa with tigers. Tigers in South Africa.
Moving on.
Moving on. Many inside jokes. Sorry, folks. If you want to know more about our inside jokes, send me a resume. Send me a sample review. I will screen you for becoming the next Comic Watch writer, and we can go from there.
By screen, he means approve immediately.
Or
Don't do it.
If you just want to do news, let me know.
Don't do it. It's a trap.
Spotlight book #2. Brian Michael Bendis and Ivan Rice's Superman #7. Now, this is the first issue of the second part of the Unity saga. We get I know, right? Sorry. Ivan Rice.
What year is it? Is this an X-Men book? Part 2 of the Comic Watchers show, Wacky Kids Edition.
Ivan Rice does the majority of the art on the title, but hasn't been consistently doing it all the way through. I think there's probably some timing issues. I mean, we've seen this with Ivan Rice in the past. Phenomenal artist, but every now and again you need to pinch hit a fill-in guy. So Brandon Peterson actually does a fair amount of this book as well, and Jason Fabok does one page. I don't know about you guys, but I find Jason Fabok one of the quietly emerging talents over at DC. He doesn't get a whole lot of credit and doesn't get a whole lot of opportunity, it feels like, but when he does, he's put out some really stellar stuff. So I mean, mad props to Jason Fabok for pitching in, I think, like one page. But
hey, Cody, will you repeat that? You totally glitched out on us. What was that?
Actually, Derbs, I think that was just you. So, yeah.
Oh, good. Never mind.
Jason Fabok is awesome.
Yeah. So
as per usual, just ignore me.
So I do want to mention the art. So I'll read the comic. I won't, because I'm actually the reviewer on this one. I don't read, like, I'll just read the comic and then I'll review the next day or whatever. But when I read it for the first time, I didn't know that there was going to be different artists, but that's one of the things that I picked up. Like right away, I was like, did somebody else do some of the pages? And sure enough, the art's great, but I didn't like it because I did feel like, or I'm not going to say I didn't like it because the art was fine no matter what, but that it seemed inconsistent for me at first. And then when I read it, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, I think we just lost Derbs.
Sorry, yeah, we lost Derbs there, and I couldn't find my mute button. Just total chaos here at Comic Watchers. But yeah, no, I mean, like this is the story after the big reveal. Jonathan Kent is back from space, and guess what? He's almost a grown-ass man. So, this is the interim of Superboy is in space with Jor-El. Sorry, Yeah, so Superboy is in space with Jor-El having adventures, and takes him 7 years to get home, even though Lois got home very quickly. And now we're kind of filling in those gaps. And I will be the first to say I'm not feeling Bendis on Superman. He has moments where he really hits on kind of that spirit of Superman, like the central theme of hope, and the everything could be better if only something were to happen. But then, sorry, cat, come on, man, not on the table. But then at other times it's like, well, here's a Batman poop joke, and here's something else out of left field that's I don't know, but I thought that this issue was probably my favorite single issue out of the entire Action run and the entire Superman run, which I just binge read today. I thought as far as a standalone, entry point for new fans, we're past all the Rogar Zar BS. So I mean that was cool.
Until he comes back at the end of the arc or something, you'll see.
Yeah.
You'll see.
Right. But I mean, what did you guys think? Like, I'm really torn. Like, this could be, anywhere from like a 6 out of 10 book for me to like an 8 out of 10 book, depending on maybe what mood I'm in, or whether I've eaten.
I agree. This was probably the best issue of Bendis's run, but that also includes such stellar moments as Superman talking to John about how he'd like to pop Batman's head like a grape, or Batman just mugged me. So, not a lot I've really loved. I haven't hated anything necessarily except for the things that I hated, but that's not important. But I will say I am really glad that we've gotten a little bit of backstory as to what John has been doing while he's been gone, because I was legitimately very curious going out of Man of Steel, and honestly I could have done with an entire miniseries of John and Jor-El out in space doing the space things. But there were some nitpicks with this issue on the minutia. I'd say overall the plot of this issue was decent, and I like where it went. But the devil in the details. Why was Lois calling him boy over and over again? Since when does he call Superman Pa? Lois doing a striptease in the window, it was funny, but it also kind of sat a little funny with me. I don't know that I've ever seen Lois like straight up hot to trot, and I don't know if I ever want to again. John, but the reveal at the end, Grandpa is crazy. You sent your son into space with a villain, with the guy who last time you saw him, he tried to kill everybody. like literally everybody. That was his thing he did. And then he showed up and said, I'm going to take your son into space. And you said, okay. And then he comes back and surprise, surprise, he's fucking nuts. What happened to him disappearing in a blue cloud? Is that just being disregarded? Dr. Manhattan saved him and then poofed him away and then just said, it's been nice. Go do you. And that was the end of that. So there's a lot of weird unanswered questions here. And, you say we're done with Rogol Zar. You know who else knows how to access the Phantom Zone, don't you? Jor-El. so
Okay, so while JJ gets the giggles, yeah. So while JJ gets the giggles, the one thing that I actually liked is that when John comes back and he's kind of like trying to comprehend what happened. The last time he saw it 3 weeks ago, he was 10. Now he's 17. So he's trying to rationalize like anybody would do, especially Clark, who's a scientist. Is it cloning? Is it genetic experimenting? He's trying to wrap around it, and while he's trying to do it, he stops dead in his tracks and just hugs his son that he hasn't seen in 3 weeks, but apparently 7 years. And I like that Lois, was like, oh my God, my kid. Any parent who loses any amount of time with their child feels that feels like there's a lot of emotions. And can you imagine losing 7 years of your, I mean, all three of you, well, with the exception of Derbs, who just popped back up, are parents. And can you imagine having 7 years of that?
7 years of relative quiet.
Okay, except for JJ. Everybody else, like it would be hard. It would be heartbreaking. I could have actually used a whole issue just on how they're feeling and comprehending that experience. But other than that, I liked it. I mean, I feel like it was a really good issue.
You did mention the kryptonites. It bothered me that Superman called out a bunch of kryptonites, multiple of which we do know what they do, and none of them age you up. But like he called out gold kryptonite, which permanently takes away a Kryptonian's powers. Blue kryptonite, which does a thing. The only one I can think of that maybe could have done something like this is maybe red kryptonite. Could have done it like, I mean, it definitely made him like an old man in an imaginary story or two, I'd say.
Yeah, but I mean, let's not forget though that we haven't seen any other colored kryptonites to my knowledge since post Flashpoint. So who knows? Like who knows how they've rearranged what multiple colored kryptonites can do? But
that's a good point.
Yeah, that I'm sure that they've just wiped that slate clean and said, well, we'll pull it out when we need to, and we'll say blue does, turns him into crypto or whatever.
Yeah, and plus he's just trying to hurry up and rationalize what the hell could have happened in 3 weeks that he's now 7 years older. I mean, I'm not going to discredit that. He's just trying to go through anything. Matt, what was your take on it?
Not bad. I didn't love it, didn't hate it. I've enjoyed the Bendis run pretty well so far. I think it's brought a shot of energy to Superman, and I hate to say that because I was really pissed off that he was taking over because I was really loving what Jurgens and Tomasi were doing, and then we lost it. But I guess that's in the past. The issue itself was fine. The art, Arby, like you said, was a little inconsistent for me, but not bad by any means. Having one random page by Jason Fabok is just weird. Like, I don't know. Neither of those other two guys could get that one more page. I don't know. It's just bizarre.
Was it the one where he was abducting, or when Jor-El was pulling him out? Because Fabok randomly did 1 or 2 pages in all of the Man of Steel issues, and he only did the scenes where Jor-El was bringing John out of the Kent's apartment. So if it is that, it might be Fabok still continuing doing just that sequence for some reason, because he's done every time that you've seen that thing with Jor-El in the shuttle pulling John away and Lois getting in the shuttle and everything. That's Fabok every time. It's weird. No matter who's drawing the book, he does that one or two pages every time.
Wow. But I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of aging John 7 years. What are we truly gaining from that? Because I loved 10-year-old John Kent running around being a goofy kid and getting into misadventures with Damian Wayne,
you're gaining manufactured dramatic tension. That's what you're gaining. Remember that cheap trick that everybody pulls out? Yeah.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It's all manufactured. So Bendis has yet to sell me on the notion that this is going to somehow be a good storyline idea. We'll see. Maybe I'm jumping the gun, but I've been reading comics a while. I know kind of what I'm looking at here.
Part of me wants to wonder. I mean, part of me when I was reading it was wondering if he'll stick to being 17, or will they find a way to bring him back to his 10-year-old self? There's so many ways that you can go about it. Who knows what?
Sure, it's comics.
Yeah, who knows what Bendis is going to end up doing?
Someone did ask in a thread I was reading about it, like, how are they going to explain this to people? Like,
yeah,
you're gonna enroll him in junior year of high school. How are you gonna tell Lois's general dad, who doesn't know Clark is Superman in this continuity? Are you just never gonna speak to him again? How are you gonna tell Perry White, Jimmy Olsen?
Yeah,
Cat
that's
Grant.
a good point.
People know who John is. people are going to recognize him at 17 years old and be like, what the hell is that? And then they're going to notice Superboy is also 17 years old, and they're going to go, what the hell is that? And then they're probably going to figure out that he's Superboy.
Growth spurt, yo. Growth spurt.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said, he's a grown-ass man.
Oh, this is actually John's cousin.
Probably. That's an easy way out.
Jim.
Oh, God, are we going to go Mike Murdoch with this?
Yep.
Possibly.
Get him a plaid jacket. Get him a
He starts acting all dirty in public.
Okay, you got to be a jackass everywhere you go.
Hey, Derbs, were you able to read it? Because I know that you're having some timing issues.
Oh, no, I was able to read it, but to be honest, I don't know enough Superman to be qualified to say shit. So, good job. Good job, guys.
Thank you for the moral support of our rants and raves.
You're welcome.
Well, I mean, if nobody has any final parting shots on Superman, we had thought that we would kind of change things up a little bit here towards the end of the show and have everybody talk about one book that they read this week, whether it's a new book, an old book, whatever, that they were excited about and that they would recommend to somebody else. So why don't we start with Brian and work our way across my screen?
Well, we don't know what your screen looks like, so you may have to call us out one by one. But yeah, so I've been reading Ultimate X-Men, like from all of them. I think I'm on like 86 right now. I'm almost done. I'm so excited to be done. But that's really the only thing that I have read that I've been constantly reading. It's not bad. I like it. As the book matures, I like it more. When I first started, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. But it was my goal for when I was on vacation to get through 100, and that only worked to like 50, and then life happened. So that's all I have. That's the only book that I read this week.
What about you, Derbs?
Oh, you know what mine is, Cody. Y'all know what mine is, right?
No.
I can legitimately say no.
Man Without Fear.
Man Without Fear.
Oh.
Who listens to you, Derby? It's me.
I know. I know. Plus, Cody's sick and Brian doesn't give a fuck. So, yeah. Man Without Fear. If you like Vigilantes and you like Daredevil, you'll like Man Without Fear.
Actually, I did read the first one. I'm waiting for Trade to read them all. But I do love
it's not totally necessary. They really do stand up. And because they're weekly, it's like you can wait for a trade, but you're going to get your fix in a week. So it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But plus the art for the first one was not good.
Right.
So I wouldn't, it gets better. They have a different penciler every week, every issue. So it's a little inconsistent and odd every week to have the book look pretty drastically different, but it's cool. Whatever.
For a weekly, it kind of makes sense though, because most pencilers can't keep up with that with full issues.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and you never know when they started drawing and all of that. No big deal. I mean, really, it's only the first book. The artist, I can't remember his name right now. Plus, it's hard to pronounce, so I just didn't memorize it. But his art style is very manga. He's the one that drew the last Gwenpool books. It was good for Gwenpool, but didn't quite translate for. Wow, I really wish someone else drew that book. That book was amazing. I'm so sad. Anyway, sorry.
No, yeah, I've been feeling that book as well. JJ.
So for back issues, the most recent thing I kind of blasted through. Well, I've been blasting through Thor post Civil War, and I'm almost to the tail end of that. And so I just read Fear Itself, of all fucking things. It was fine. I'm about 10 issues away from having read every single issue of Thor since 2007. So that's cool. But Fear Itself is pretty integral to that last fraction run of Thor pre Jason Aaron. So I had to read Fear Itself. It was fine. So for new books this week, I'm gonna grab one off over here. I hope they don't mind. I'll probably buy it tomorrow. Crypt of Shadows looks super duper cool. It's an anthology book, an anthology horror book in the style of pre-code horror books with three short horror stories. It looks very much up my alley, and I definitely am going to purchase it on the morrow.
Nice. Yeah, I will also be likely picking that one up. It looks like it's going to be really interesting. Matt, what did you read this week?
I made my way through the first trade of Shadow Pact by Bill Willingham. Thank you.
Oh, it's so good.
That was awesome. Recommended if you like Justice League Dark, which last week's issue, book of the week for me. Throw that out there. Yeah, it's a great balance of supernatural fun, genuine suspense. Like, honestly, tonally, it kind of reminds me of Ghostbusters, if that's not too weird. That just cross section of the supernatural with comedy. I really appreciated what Bill Willingham did there with that book. So go buy that. It's a lost classic.
What issues did that have, by the way? Was that 1 through 6?
There's an issue that's missing. It's 1 through 4, and then like 6 through 8 or something like that, and then
that's a good spread. Like yeah, that's a good good arc.
Yeah,
there's one in there that's out of the story. That's why
I assumed as much.
Yeah,
it was the token Civil War, or whatever DC's version of Civil War was at that time.
It's something like that.
Yeah. This coming week, man, cover's coming out. Cover number 5. Cannot wait to read that comic.
Cody's all about that cover.
Although,
him and David.
It's amazing. Oh, Freedom Fighters with its Nazi punching and Robert Venditti is a close second.
Oh, I can't wait for Freedom Fighters. No.
Wasn't that last? Oh.
No.
You know what, Cody? All these advances throw me off because I almost said something about another book that I read, but then realized it was actually coming out this week. I mean, I'm glad that we have the advances, but I get so confused. That's why I just stopped reading the advances for a while, and now
it does throw you off a little bit reading next week's books today.
Yeah, because I was already like, wait, that already came out, and they're like, no, and I was like, oh.
Why don't you shut up?
Yeah. Wow. Exactly.
Well, as we kind of hack our way through this new format, why don't we backtrack real quick and have Brian and Derbs tell us what you guys are looking forward to next week, if you can parse out what comes out next week.
I do. I've already read them. No, so actually, only one of them have I read. So I'm going to recommend everybody actually pick up Buffy the Vampire Slayer #1. It's actually really, really good. Shut up, John. I was actually really, really surprised at it. But the one that I haven't read and that I'm looking forward to is Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which is really funny because I've never even liked Spider-Man up until I did Spider-Geddon. It was actually really good. And then Miles, I'm a big fan of Spider-Man right now. Derby, what you got?
Well, I mean, Man of Fear 4.
No, yeah.
So, I mean, that's the #1 right now that I can think of. I'm catching up on Nightwing right now, so I don't really want to read anything else because I've got another 27 issues to read before I feel happy and I catch up. You know. So.
Skip the Judge and Percy. Skip the Judge and Percy. That's all I can say. All I can say is skip the Judge and Percy.
What issue is that? Do you know what issue number?
It's like 40 through 49, 38 through 49.
Hey, Derbs, it's the first issue after Tim Seeley's arc ends.
Just read Tim Seeley and then start at issue 50 fresh.
Wow.
The Percy issues are there's a tech conglomerate that takes over Bloodhaven, and somehow that leads to a motorcycle race in which we meet a druid. And then the druid tells Nightwing that he needs more time, which kind of sounds like, it kind of reminds me of like the kind of reminds me of Guns N' Roses saying, "Where do we go now?" because they didn't know what to sing after the bridge. We need more time. I said, we don't know how to finish this arc. We need more time. Can we talk about this in like 20 issues or so when I've had some time to think about this? That's what they were.
Where do we go?
Where do we go now?
Where do we go now?
Oh boy! So this went downhill fast.
Right, like within minutes, this just went downhill.
If you're still watching, we do apologize.
Or listening.
I don't apologize for shit.
but to echo Matt and JJ, like after Tim Seeley read number 50, I would skip all the rest of that as well. I was reading them as they were kind of coming out and was not impressed. And again, like Tim Seeley is the. What?
Like 10 issues? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. There's like 10 issues of not great, and then it gets back up where it needs to be.
Now I need to go back and see where I started buying the singles.
The comic book store actually got mad at me because I picked up and dropped Nightwing 3 times in like 4 months. Because I put it on my pull list, and then I'm like, yeah, get this off my pull list. And then wait a minute, someone else came on. You can put it back on my pull list. And then I got the annual, and I put it back on my pull list because the annual was super shitty, and I wanted to see where it was going. And then I kicked it off my pull list again, and now I kind of want it back on my pull list, but I'm scared because Kenshi's gonna yell at me.
Yeah, I think The Revenge of Raptor is the last good series before Seeley comes on, I believe.
Seeley leaves. Seeley's the good. We like Seeley.
That's what I meant. I'm reversed. Everything I do is backwards.
But I think you've bought a lot of goodwill at that LCS, John. I mean, probably a decade worth of like special treatment, so you should be all right.
Oh, yeah. They're fine. I'm mostly joking. But Kenshi's gonna yell at me.
You're keeping them in hot dogs and diamond rings.
Yeah.
Putting their kids through college. I don't think they have any kids.
All right, Cody. Do you have anything else for us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I'll take my turn. I did a lot of catching up on stuff that is recently released that I hadn't gotten around to, and then sometime off on a tangent, I feverish and laying in bed in the middle of the night, decided to revisit Peter David's Captain Marvel Volume 5 and reread a handful of those and reread, the number 25, which was the final issue of the series, which is quite possibly the greatest closing issue of any series of all time. So if you haven't,
he walks around the white panels and he's talking about, like, he calls the editor.
Yeah. Like, no, I'm not done yet. I still have more to do. They'll call.
That's genius.
Somebody will call, and then fade to black, and then the phone rings. Too late.
First episode of Tales of the Crypt. The governor's gonna call. The governor's gonna call.
So I mean, if you haven't gone back and read that gem, and I know a lot of you haven't because the sales on it were just in the toilet, obviously, and it got canned, and nobody ever talks about it. But Peter David, Crisscross, it's a Genus Vell series, the son of Marvel. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's a great, I would almost put it as a compendium to Watchmen if you're talking about like psychologically breaking down what a superhero is. You can see where the psychological end on Watchmen kind of mirrors the practical end with Captain Marvel. Check it out. I'm pretty sure you won't be disappointed. If you are, mail those trades to me, and I'll just keep stockpiling them. As for this upcoming week, I probably most excited for Shazam number 2. It feels like that's been a really slow release schedule. Shazam number 1 was pushed back, and then it's been like 6 weeks. So give me some more Jeff Johns. Give me some more Shazam this week.
Well, we had that weird no DC week, and then it seems like this is a light week, and then it seems like the 5th week this month is really heavy, which is weird because it usually be an annuals week. But,
right. But because of the skip week, we're getting everything. Like I am dreading the 30th. Like I have so many things. I have so many things to review.
Oh my god! Oh, thank God it's payday. That's all I gotta say.
All right. Well, B, you want to close this out?
Yeah. All right. Thank you for joining us for season 2, episode 2. Check us out on YouTube at Comic Watch. Check us out on iTunes. Well, actually, not iTunes yet, but Spotify and SoundCloud at The Comic Watchers Show. You can also like us on our Facebook page, The Comic Watchers, and always check out our main page, The Comic Watch, at Facebook, and check us out at www.comic-watch.com. Bye.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We love you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming, Matt. Oh yeah, thanks for Matt. Well, happy first show.